time is not on Tottenham's side. In the bottom three of the Premier League now, and with a boss so beleaguered he has to confirm on a daily basis he is still in charge. Nothing at Newcastle except more rumours of unrest. Stay tuned for tonight's latest instalment from the Lane. This is White Hart Lane, in a stadium that's just starting to fill. Spurs fans started the season hoping to push on for fourth place after two successive fifth-place finishes, but it has not turned out that way so far. Tonight, Tottenham have a rare chance to shine against Spanish strugglers Khetafe, the visitors in the first game of the UEFA Cup group stage. Another big night for Tottenham. Lots more questions to ask and answer. Some of the answers, hopefully, from Andy and Robbie, who are with me at White Hart Lane this evening. Robbie, another corner, I suppose, for Tottenham to try to turn. More accusations, more rumour, more innuendo. Where do you start? Where does it end?
Every time we come here, it seems to be the same kind of situation. We're having the same conversations. How many more games has he got left? You know, how often can they keep making these mistakes? You do feel as though time's drawing a little bit closer now, and I do feel as though tonight is a really important game. Tonight in the league game weekend, I think are two huge games in what could be, you know, the career of Martin and Tottenham.
Khetafe tonight, Blackburn on Sunday, which is nobody's idea of an easy Premier League game, and Blackpool in the Carling Cup in midweek next week, and suddenly every fixture, and you're in this kind of cauldron, Andy, feels like a potential watershed.
I don't think the manager will be looking anything like anything further than purely what we've got here tonight. I think he will realise that again, they're expected to win this one. They're up against the side that are struggling themselves in their own league, and if it doesn't go well tonight, what with the weekend, I can't see beyond it. I cannot see how we can continue this saga with Martin if he loses his next two matches. He's really at the crossroads right now, and unless they get it sorted, I think tonight and the weekend, then I think he'll be gone.
Let's just remind ourselves exactly how it looks at the bottom of the Premier League, which I guess is Tottenham's main headache at the moment. Not pretty reading for Spurs fans. Third bottom, just one win, and that at home some weeks back to newly promoted Derby County. Difficult to envisage a challenge for a Champions League place from there, albeit only 10 games in. But if there is a silver lining, tonight's opponents, Khetafe, who've come from just south of Madrid in geographic terms, are also having a poor season so far. They are also third bottom in La Liga and won their first game of the season at the weekend. Last season's success resulted in the coach, Bernd Schuster, moving to Real Madrid. Now, will Dimitar Berbatov be warming up this evening for a starting spot? A man who knows is Gabriel Clark. He's downstairs with the team news. Gabriel.
Well, Matt, Martin called that performance at Newcastle Tottenham's worst of the season so far, which is saying something, and only 6 of that side get the chance to put things right tonight. But Dimitar Berbatov will be out for the warm-up because he is in the team. This is the Tottenham 11. Centre-half Michael Dawson is left out. In comes Anthony Gardner. In midfield, Tom Huddleston replaces Jermaine Genius. Aaron Lennon will start on the right. Steed Malbranc on the left. Jermaine Defoe partners Berbatov in attack, with Robbie Keane, Spurs' top scorer, dropping to the subs bench. And that decision might surprise a few fans here, but you get the feeling Jol also has on his mind, of course, that game at the weekend when Spurs will want to beat Blackburn and will be so desperate to get out of the relegation zone.
Thank you, Gabriel. More from Gabriel between now and kick-off. The Spurs team, arrived here at White Hart Lane a little while back. Dimitar Berbatov among them. An inclusion in the starting 11 tonight. Much talk of his attitude since Newcastle this week. On his day, clearly the best player among them, certainly at this club. But is he committed to Martin Jol? Ned Bolting takes up the story.
Brilliant and exasperating, and at the heart of the syndrome which afflicts this sickly Spurs campaign, Dimitar Berbatov is simultaneously the figure who can engender the revival or drag the dispirited dressing room down to further depths. A footballer of obvious class, perhaps even world class, with a distinct and defining talent to justify the wearing of an Alice band. In short, there's more to him than hair. He came to prominence at Leverkusen, filling the void in a team bereft of Ballack. His star was rising.
The touch of a master.
But £11 million takes some repayment. In his first season, he paid off a big chunk. Engulfed by admiring teammates or shocked into silence by his own ability, Berbatov put in displays which would call to mind men like Bergkamp or Cantona. In front of goal, he was that good.
Berbatov! Oh! picked that out.
The lightness of touch, the assuredness in his own ability, the languid movement which makes him so hard to read, the vision to reward his industry.
What a fabulous first-time pass from Berbatov, and what a penetrating finish from Robbie Keane.
His play earned him a 100% pay rise. Spurs wanted to build a new team around him, yet this season has been different. So which came first, the subdued performance or the petulance? It could be second season syndrome, but Tottenham quickly need an answer to this question. Why, for double the money, have they ended up with half the player?
Interesting question. Let's bring in one half of our commentary team at White Hart Lane this evening, the former Spurs manager, David Pleat. Evening, David.
Evening, Matt.
That's one good question. Here's another. Would you have picked Dimitar Berbatov tonight?
Oh, I think so. I think he's playing for his own pride. I wasn't a witness to the Newcastle performance or anything that happened up there, but I think in front of the home supporters tonight, I think he owes them a good performance.
He's picked Jermaine Defoe as well as Dimitar Berbatov tonight, David, so in a way, he's inviting either a gamble or perhaps his critics to realise that he is a man in control of his players.
Well, I would have thought that Robbie Keane has been possibly the most consistent player of this disappointing season so far, and he therefore automatically will have a place in the starting lineup against Blackburn Rovers. Jermaine's been itching to get on the field from the start. Tonight's an opportunity for him against opposition whom they should beat, and teaming up with Berbatov, you know, if you just look at the situation between the two of them, someone who's got a lot of style, good in the air, good touch, Jermaine can feed off him, and I expect him to get amongst the goals tonight.
Hi, David, I saw a lot of Berbatov during last year, and he made even like bad balls into good ones by chasing it, as well as his technical ability. This year I've seen him, balls have been half a yard away from him. His reaction's not been good, hands have been up in the air, he's been looking as though all of a sudden he feels he's maybe slightly better than the team.
Yes, you're quite right, Robbie. I don't know sometimes. Unfortunately, we're not party to what goes on behind the closed doors. I think his feelings for the club may not be so strong as when he first came. And you know, it's that second season syndrome. When people get to know their abilities, do they get as tight as on Berbatov as they did last year? Because they know that he can outflick them in the air, so therefore they go tight and then they just drop off at the last moment. Maybe there's talk of messages from the north of England coming towards Berbatov or his agent. And you know how this football game works. But I think it's rather sad that the wonderful performances he put in last year for Tottenham haven't been maintained so far this season.
David, we're talking about the strikers here, we're talking about Berbatov and Defoe's and Keane's, etc. But the problems they've got, Spurs, have been at the back. I mean, they've actually, I've just looked in the programme, they've scored more goals in the league than Man United this season, can you believe? But they can't seem to get it right at the back. Now, no Dawson tonight. Question marks about the midfield. Why are they so flimsy? Why are they so brittle?
Well, as you know, Andy, a team defends together and attacks together, and often the criticism is labelled at the defenders when they're conceding goals. I just wonder, we've already mentioned Berbatov, are they working as hard at the front to hustle and to try and stop the opposition developing attacks in the middle third? Are they getting in front of the Tottenham back four too easily? Are they getting behind the Tottenham back four too easily? You know, is the fault in the air? Is Dawson as commanding as last season? I just think Robinson's been a little bit exposed this year. I feel for him. He's had a bit of a calf injury, but generally speaking, I think the team as a group haven't defended well, and the goals total against would suggest that.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much for the moment, David. We'll attempt, time allowing, to pick Pleaty's brain a little more between now and kick-off. Thanks also to Andy and Robbie for now. Next, we'll look back at a very mixed bag of performances by British clubs in the Champions League this week. If you are a Liverpool fan, might be time to make a drink, and a large one. It's an autumn Thursday evening at White Hart Lane, a damp chill in the air really, hopefully not a damp squib this evening for Tottenham. Martin, you're not the only manager with things to ponder. Michael Laudrup's in charge of the visitors tonight, Khetafe. They've not had a good start to this season. The fans here would certainly love a performance to match their North London rivals on Tuesday, and would love a big game from that man, Dimitar Berbatov. Of course, Arsenal did the business not many miles from here a couple of nights ago, and it's at the Emirates Stadium that we start our Champions League roundup.
And Slavia have to go through it all again in 2 weeks when a point takes Arsenal through. United lost games 4 and 5 last year. There surely won't be a repeat with Kiev next at home. To Barca next, but if Rangers can beat Lyon at home on match day 5, they'll qualify. A win at Schalke next and Chelsea will seal their place in the last 16. Celtic will need to be perfect at Parkhead against Benfica to start to turn things around. 2-1 to Besiktas. Only 3 wins will do now, starting with the revenge mission against the Turks in 2 weeks.
Well, Rafa Benitez, boys, is understandably talking positively about the prospects that Liverpool still have to get out of that group, but it's a big climb now.
It's hard work, you know, with a manager and a club that have known how to get through in this competition. They've started disastrously, really, and when I thought this year that the squad would be better for them, and I thought there was depth in the squad, I mean, at centre-half, I still think, you know, the cover hasn't been quite right. Without Torres, they haven't really had the goal threat. I've had to rely on Steve, and it would seem that, you know, things just haven't been right. And some of the things that Raf have done have really left it open to criticism, you know, some of those big decisions.
Interestingly, on Tuesday night, before that result, you were saying, in a way, it might reveal the real Benitez for Liverpool's ambitions in the league, were they not to have a European headache.
It's unthinkable, because when Liverpool get to the quarterfinals and beyond, they become a major player in the Champions League. But just wonder if we're getting to the point now with this Liverpool team, with all this messing around with the team. The players look confused by it. Their body language says they don't really know what's happening. They're unhappy with what's going on. I just wonder that maybe we're getting to the point. If they go out the Champions League, we'll see the real Rafa. We'll see if he really has got enough to go the distance and get this Liverpool team battling for the Premiership properly. And then you can start knocking on the door of Europe year in, year out. He's got an obsession with this competition, which I think is stifling the rest of the team.
Contrast that briefly, though, with where you were on Tuesday night at the Emirates. I mean, of course, they go to Anfield.
They do a big game of the weekend, but it was a privilege to be there, Matt. You know, the pace and the movement that this team play with, and you know, you'd have to say that these players coming like Kleb, like Flamini, who I have to say probably since the influence of some of the big players have gone, and I'm talking about Henry and maybe a Pires and Lundberg, these players have just blossomed, and at the moment, honestly, you can't stop them.
And of course, there's an Englishman in the mix at Arsenal very much, in Mr. Walcott. Coming up tonight, we'll hear from a member of the Getafe coaching staff who's a European champion in his day, and of course knows all about football in North London. Once of Arsenal, John Jensen, next.
On DVD.
You just killed a helicopter with a car.
I was out of bullets. Exploding onto DVD Monday. Die Hard 4.0.
Control the adventure with your stylus. The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, only on Nintendo DS.
The final 4 from this year's contender.
It's been amazing.
Get a chance to learn firsthand from Series 1 success story Alfonso Gomez as he takes on former world title challenger Ben Taki.
Boxing offers up unique opportunities.
The Contender 3, Sunday at 9, ITV4.
We are at White Hart Lane this evening. Tottenham Hotspur playing Getafe in the first group game in the UEFA Cup this season. It slipped kick-off here from 7:45 to 8 o'clock because of traffic congestion around White Hart Lane, something I can personally attest to this evening. It's not great, but we will endeavour, of course, to get as many supporters in as we can. Meanwhile, as far as Tottenham are concerned, there's Mr. Yol, confirming once again that he's still here, alive and kicking as Tottenham manager. They have been accused, perhaps, of lacking something of a leader on the pitch at the moment. Tom Huddleston, who plays tonight, could be that man.
How difficult has it been this season? Because, I mean, the results just haven't been going your way. And can you put your finger on why it's happened?
I don't think you can put it all down to bad luck, but I think we've had a few dodgy decisions. I I think we've been unlucky a few times as well. I was working it out last night. We probably should have 7 or 8 points more than we have actually got in the league. But obviously we're still in the cup competitions and we've looked good in Europe as well. I think the class of players that we've got here, I don't think we should be in the position we are. It's just a case of one result springing the season off.
Is there a sort of crisis of confidence? Could it be? Is that too big a word to use?
I think crisis is too big. As for confidence, obviously if you're losing games you're not going to be confident going into other games, but I think we just got to try and stay positive. We know we're all good players and we're a good team as we've shown last season. It's just a case of kick-starting the season again in the league.
And is it time for your big name players to start putting the performances in and that will drag the rest of you along in their wake?
I don't think you can put the blame on anyone really. I think it's just a case of everybody pulling the finger out, so to speak, and pulling together as a team. We've got to stay together now when the chips are down as it is at the minute, but I think we're fairly confident in our own ability.
That's the Tottenham midfielder Tom Huddleston. He plays tonight. If you're just joining us, here's confirmation of Martin Jol's starting 11. Dimitar Berbatov starts tonight. He is warming up because he's in the starting 11 alongside Jermaine Defoe-Zakora, alongside Huddleston in the middle of the park, as you can see, and Anthony Gardner replaces Michael Dawson at centre-half alongside Kabul. Radek continues in goal in place of the injured Paul Robinson. We've discussed before, you've both made a point of Tottenham's perhaps slightly soft centre as midfielders, both of you, who, if you weren't naturally, you grew to be talkers on the pitch, communicators, leaders to some extent. Are they lacking that, Tottenham?
Yeah, I felt they've lacked that even when we talk about, you know, their true captain, I think Ledley King being back in the side. I think Ledley's one of those players who leads by example, leads by the way he plays, but, you know, I haven't played against him a couple of times. He's not vocal at all. And I just wonder in this team, who's the person who, when things aren't going well, and like you say, you're central midfield, pulls the wingers in and says, let's tuck in for 5 minutes. Who gets the front lads, as David Pleat said, tracking down and closing down. I'm not sure that they've got one in this side, and at times when things haven't been going right, you've got to have one, and that's why tonight Decora's role is going to be hugely important, because he's got the armband and he's got to make sure that he gets hold of people and gets, you know, people doing their jobs.
I've been surprised at him, Zakora, Rob. I've actually been surprised, because he's been a player that I think that in the World Cup when I saw him, he was terrific. He was absolutely fantastic. But he just hasn't really. There's no one. He's not got any other competition at the club in that particular role, and I just feel that he really hasn't accepted the responsibility that a player of his standing should have done, particularly surrounded by so many of the younger boys. I just don't know. I watch him playing and I see him have a good game, and then followed by 2 or 3 when he's a bit non-existent, particularly in front of a team that's conceding poor goals. You think he'd say, "Oh, listen, no one gets past me, no one's coming through me," you know, and I just don't see him doing enough.
Well, in that sense, a lack of leadership and maybe experience, and also something you've both spoken about as well in the past, perhaps. You need a little bit of spite, don't you, at times, as a top-level professional footballer, and you don't see a lot of that good nastiness, if you like, in the Tottenham side.
I think that's, you know, they're a side that play football, that want to play flowing football as the fans expect. But there's another side to every game. Every winning side has somebody who'll stick their foot in there and make things a little uncomfortable at times. And I think people get a little bit of an easy ride sometimes, you know, especially here at White Hart Lane.
We are talking about handling pressure as well as a football team. We're talking about coping with being at the bottom. It is not easy. No. Robbie and I have been down in a situation like these boys are in the league. When you're walking out in front of your home fans, you know, it's not always as pleasant. It's not always the advantage that all the fans in here believe it should be. Yeah. Sometimes it can work completely the other way, and you can dread playing at home when you're having a bad run. And I'm not so sure if they've got, when you actually go through the team, when you look at some of the younger guys they have playing, how well that they are coping with.
But fans who come along and pay to watch won't see any of that. They'll see the big car in the car park and players who have a fantastic life and an opportunity to wear the shirt, and they'll think, hang on, the least you can do is turn up.
As big as the names are, Matt, as big, you know, as confident, as technical as players can be, that, you know, at times you still get a little bit nervy out there.
Yeah. Yeah, we also talked earlier about Dimitar Berbatov, who starts tonight, alongside Jermaine Defoe. The last time we were here, Defoe was a striker who was, if you like, the talking point. He came on, scored a couple of great goals, the fans gave him an ovation, and there was a sense of who's more importantly, the player or the manager, is everything rosy? And of course, that will be the case again tonight, not only with him, but with Berbatov too.
Sure, he'll be wondering a little bit, what have I really got to do to somehow cement my place in this side? Because everybody knows he's probably more inclined to nick a goal than anybody in that anyone they have. As quality that Robbie Keane and Berbatov are, you know, he's the one guy that you feel that can come on in a game and can make a difference. But however, he doesn't seem to be able to convince that man. He doesn't seem to be able to tell him.
Do you know the one thing that I feel slightly sorry for this fella is, however hard you work in training, however hard, how much time you put in and set pieces and the rest, when you go out there, sometimes players forget it. And I was in the side at Wimbledon, ended up getting relegated, and people just forgot their jobs. The pressure got to them, and individual mistakes cost us in the end, and that's why we went down. And that's what's happened here a lot.
Well, yeah. And without reading too much into a situation we only see from the outside, presumably once that starts, once perhaps there are individual fallings out, players and managers don't see things the same way, very hard to get a group that's dissolute and disparate back all in the same direction.
And you're on very thin ice when you've got Mr. Levy and Kamoli and all these the big heads up there sitting down, looking down on a side, knowing that there might have been a bit of squabbling, having seen Berbatov sulking in at Newcastle in the week. You know, then all of a sudden because if they start getting a whiff upstairs that you're losing that dressing room and that players have lost their faith in you and they don't believe in you anymore and they're no longer listening to what you're saying, then you're in big trouble. Allied with poor results, there's nowhere to go.
I would hope if he turns to Robbie Keane to warm up tonight, Martin, he doesn't have to ask him 2 or 3 times.
I don't think so. I mean,
Robbie's
model
pro.
Robbie's a chippy, chirpy lad, and he's perfect for a situation like this. 6 goals in 7 games. When you're struggling, he finds himself out the side.
Yeah, he want to play tonight, wouldn't he?
He would want to play big time. But we shall see exactly how Berbatov and Defoe do, Matt. That you'd like to think that, irrespective of what's gone on, what's been said, any relationship problems they have, you'd like to think that Berbatov will, like Drogba's done. Drogba's had a bit of a pop at what's been going on at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But all credit to him, he's come back, done the business, scored some goals. Now we'll see if Berbatov's man enough to do the same.
Good stuff, thank you, fellas. As promised, the former Arsenal player John Jensen next. He's on the coaching staff at Khetafe under Michael Laudrup, and he's been talking to Gabriel Clark.
John Jensen, nice to see you back. Arsenal legend, of course. Have you had a few messages? Good luck messages for tonight?
I have, yeah, especially from the Arsenal players, former Arsenal players.
What are they saying to you?
No, I think we have a good chance to win today because Tottenham having a bad spell at the moment and have a trouble in the league. So we really have a chance to beat Tottenham tonight. But it's still a good team to play against. But we have to play out to our best if we want to win.
When a manager is under pressure, like Martin Jol is right now, how does the opposition approach things? I mean, what sort of atmosphere do you expect here tonight?
I expect that the Spurs fans will go behind the players, and especially the first 25 minutes, maybe 30. And if they don't score a goal or create any chances, then hopefully we can turn around the fans and so they can go behind us instead of the players from Tottenham.
Now, you've not had the best of starts, you and Michael Laudrup. This is an important game for you, isn't it?
It's always an important game because we have played some quite well in the last 7 games. We haven't got enough points on the table. We got the last win on Sunday against Murcia. So that is confident for us. But a small games we win is more confidence, and I think that is the main key for us at the moment. Is we need some victories, and hopefully we can have one today against Spurs.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you.
That's John Jensen, part of the coaching staff for Khetafe under Michael Laudrup. Here's their starting 11 for this evening. The Uruguayan Albin, part of a front 2 that involves the Spaniard number 9, Braulio. Not too many household names amongst their 11. And they are third bottom in La Liga. Similar kind of start to the season, really, to Tottenham. Right, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it is a delayed kick-off at White Hart Lane this evening. 8 o'clock they kick off. With the latest on all of that, back downstairs to Gabriel.
Yeah, Matt, that kick-off delayed to 8 o'clock because of a major accident on the A10 north of London at Enfield. Even by commuter standards around London at this time of night on a Thursday, it's been very, very heavy traffic. So the Metropolitan Police recommended to Tottenham to delay the kick-off. Only around 26,000 actually expected in a ground that holds around 36,000, but they're giving those fans enough time to make it. And it gives you an idea of just how tough the traffic has been around here tonight, that Tottenham, even with a police escort, arrived some 20 minutes late. So they have to rush out for their warm-up. They get ready for their warm-up, and now that they're out doing their warm-up, they're actually a little bit too early. So I suppose those little things, another little thing that Martin Jol has to contend with tonight, little problems that all add up. He's now got to sort of relax his players a little bit more and get ready for this game. So a few things going wrong for Tottenham, but hopefully they'll overcome this minor problem, and Jol will have his players primed for that later kick-off.
Thank you, Gabriel. We mentioned that time was against Tottenham at the very start of the programme. The clock is against them. Everything, it seems, in some way or other, is against them. Clearly, we hope nothing too serious on the A10. Hope there's no major incident in terms of physical problems up there. But looking at the selection that Michael Laudrup and John Jensen have made, you notice the shape, which might help tonight from a parochial Spurs perspective.
It might help Tottenham that if they line up as we just saw there, if they line up with a pretty basic 4-4-2, if you are in a team where you're struggling a little bit, it is nice to not have anything too complicated necessarily shape-wise in front of you. In other words, for the younger boys, for Huddleston and people like that, they can see the man opposite them and they can go and deal with that. Aaron Lennon knows he wants to get the better of his fullback, he wants to keep running him back. If they do start maybe altering the shape of their team a little bit more, that can sometimes cause problems for you, and then you start getting caught in between players, and then that's where a team low on confidence can start to struggle.
I think you also have to, though, put yourself in the Khetafe dressing room, and Laudrup and Jensen will be saying, you know, this team are lacking in confidence. If we keep it tight for 20 minutes, the crowd might get onto them. It's a nervy situation. So, you know, putting the bit on the other foot, they may just think that it might be a good time to come here for straight for a certain point and then, you know, try and nick something.
And of course, whilst we've spent the week discussing the fact that Tottenham lost again against Newcastle and all that went on or didn't go on the bench, and we'll discuss that again in a moment. From a Khetafe point of view, they've found the perfect time from their first league win of the season. So the Spurs fans are thinking, oh, great, another
just when it happens,
headache. Well,
you know, it's a habit-forming business, and you know they've won a game. They'll be a little bit more confident than all that's gone on this week with arguments behind the scenes, big players not playing, whatever. You know, you just look at the other side, and can you imagine if they go 1-0 up here?
Tell you also, you two keep yourselves in extremely good shape given your advancing years, but with quick shots of Michael Laudrup before, looks like he can still bring his boots and play. I mean, he wasn't half a player.
What a player he was, by the way. Couldn't it? They could do with him playing. I'll tell you, if he was fit enough and had his boots, I'll tell you what, Spurs would be in problem. Not so much for Johnny Jensen, by the way. No. Not worry about his goal-scoring prowess.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, no, wonderful player.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you both. So, Spurs, club, in crisis. We will unravel, certainly attempt to, the fact from the fiction. What have you heard? What are you listening to? We'll find out when we come back. We're at White Hart Lane tonight, an 8 o'clock kick-off for Spurs against Khetafe. The fans come and dream their dreams. Top of the league, UEFA Cup final, beat the Arsenal. And at some point between now and 8 o'clock, they'll probably wake up and realise that actually they're still bottom three and the nightmare continues. But enjoy it while it lasts, son. Enjoy it while it lasts. About 26,000 hardy souls, most of them awake, expected here tonight. It is a delayed kick-off because of traffic problems, particularly on the A10 where there's been a major incident. An 8 o'clock kick-off here. Everybody trying to keep upbeat and chipper and not turn chicken on Tottenham. They are hoping for a ray of sunshine against the team from Spain, Khetafe, in this UEFA Cup group game. Will it be an adequate distraction from the club's domestic problems? Rumour, gossip, glaring headlines daily. Tottenham more Shakespearean farce, even tragedy than football club at the moment. We've sent our reporter Ned Bolting to unpick the plot.
What must hurt the most about the Tottenham crisis, although crisis is not a word they like to use, is that it all reads with ghastly familiarity. The club has been here often enough before, on the threshold of a breakthrough, only to find the future unravelling predictably and publicly. Spurs lose at home on Sunday as nerves get to Jol is fighting for his job after it emerged that he's been given a stay of execution. Solskjaer will get Jol sacked. With all these voices in his head, you'd only hope for Martin Jol's sake that he doesn't read the papers. Unfortunately for him, he does.
Can you just clarify something which was that you had to ask Dimitar Berbatov 3 times to go and warm up? Did that happen?
Yeah, it was 4 times after that in the paper, you know, so it didn't happen. when he made his warming up, you know, he didn't look very sharp, and that was the only issue. But that was never an issue for the papers. The issue was that he didn't want to warm up, and that was never the case. And sometimes you have to say, you know, say it twice because of the noise or whatever. But I never had to tell him or encourage him to go for a warming up.
Thank you very much. Is everything okay between you and Martin, Dimitar?
Yeah.
The boss? Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship with Dimitar? Is it good?
I think it's very good. And that is what he told you guys as well. The only thing for me which matters is that he can get back to his old form and score a lot of goals.
The complex issues surrounding Spurs seem to crystallise in the figure of Dimitar Berbatov. Retaining his services in the face of serious and sustained interest from Europe's top table suggested a future was taking shape which would bounce Spurs from being also-rans to pace-setters. In short, the board decided to twist. Somewhere between that £40 million fourth-place gamble and the reality of where they're at now, Spurs have simply forgotten what the good times felt like. But, as whenever you intrude on private grief, it's often difficult to unpick the facts from the fiction. How difficult is it for you to operate in these circumstances? Because everybody outside of the club thinks that you are like Claudio Ranieri in his last year at Chelsea. I think he used the phrase dead man walking.
Yeah, but they come up with all these things, you know, but they don't know how strong I am. And I feel that if you're on this job, you have to be strong, because otherwise you would send the wrong messages to your players. And if you see my players going out over the last probably 4 or 5 weeks, you realise that they still want to win games for the club.
Day after day, while the manager faces down the hard questions, the inscrutable face of Tottenham Hotspur plc does little to allay suspicion. The denials have come when they've been squeezed, but the indiscretions of Juan de Ramos and the resignation of the vice-chairman Paul Kemsley would suggest that there are shades of grey within the black and white. Is the communication the way it should be between you and the chairman and the director of football?
Yeah, I feel we always had a good professional relationship, and I have to say, you know, I had dinner with the chairman last week, and that was nice, you know, good food.
Who paid?
No, it was in his house, you know. The only thing was the television screens were not on, so I had a problem because it was an international night. But that was the only that was the only complaint.
Dinner for two or too many cooks? Is the presence at Daniel Levy's side of director of football Damien Kamoli one man too many in a crowded boardroom?
There's not a lot of people, you know, everybody talks about a lot of people, but I get on with all the directors, I get on with the chairman, so, but of course he's worried, but I suppose he was worried at the start of the season, and even after 2 games he was worried.
That worry extends to this summer's transfer dealings. Kamoli or Yol or a bit of both, whoever targeted the players, named the price and did the deal, will be looking for more from that massive investment.
I feel that we did a pretty good job. We got the Kabuls of this world and the Boatengs and the Bales, but they never played in the Premiership. So it's not only about investment, it's about investments for the future as well.
That future, when the team learns once more to hit the heights, may seem remote, but Tottenham comes to life midweek under floodlights in Europe.
We probably turned the corner last year against Slavia Prague away, so that was a very good opportunity. And we did it against Khetafe, against Famagusta, for example, scored 6 goals, so that was good. And hopefully we can do it again. Although it's never easy, you know, to play against Khetafe.
Or against anyone for that matter. For Martin Jol's sake, and to spare the need for another vote of confidence, a win is all that counts.
Interesting stuff, Andy and Robbie, listening to that, and David Pleat, part of our commentary team too, who we'll hear from in a moment. Interesting point he made there for me about it not only being about players for today, but buying talent for tomorrow. They've clearly invested a lot in that, and this will be hard for Spurs fans to hear, but Arsenal find a way of having tomorrow's stars play today, don't they? And Tottenham aren't bridging that gap at the moment.
No, they're not. And you know, even talking about the future at times, it's a difficult one because, you know, right now Martin Jol's most important game is tonight and Saturday, and he can't look too far beyond. And so all that planning, you have to be a little bit careful in terms of the important time is now and what, you know, what's coming on the conveyor belt.
Let's bring in David Pleat, who's in the glamorous heights of the commentary box. As you can see, it's very plush up there on the gantry. Pleaty, is it beyond fixing really for Martin Jol? Are we talking about when rather than if he gets his P45?
I have to say it's going to be difficult, Matt. I don't think Martin should go to too many dinners. He'll soon find the last supper. I think the wedge is it there now, and Martin's aware of it. And what happens is you lose a little bit of confidence. You know, caretakers are fine for a while, and Martin almost becomes a caretaker because they've shown their intent, rightly or wrongly, publicly or privately, and we know what they should have done. They were caught speaking to another guy with a view to taking the job. Whether they actually offered him a job is neither here nor there. But Martin knows from that moment that he's under real pressure, and maybe they don't think he's quite the right man to take them on to the next level, whatever they may think that should be. They have invested money, make no mistake about that. They spent 40 million. You know, when I was here as a caretaker, I shopped in Woolworths. OK, we bought Defoe for 7 million, we bought Robinson. But I have to say, basically, we bought from the Peterborough Uniteds and the Port Vales. He's been buying so-called top young players from abroad with a fair amount of money. And of course, there is also, not a black mark at the moment, but a question mark. You know, the Darren Bent signing was 16 or 17 million when they already had on the books Berbatov playing splendidly, Defoe, a predator, and Robbie Keane. So, you know, there's 1 or 2 question marks there, and the board, I suppose, have become worried. Let's put it like that.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much. Honest as always and insightful. David Pleat, part of our commentary team from 8 o'clock this evening, alongside Peter Drury. Fans happily coming in numbers now after traffic problems around White Hart Lane. Somewhere towards 30,000 expected for Spurs against Khetafe. An 8 o'clock kick-off. More from us in a moment or two. We are at White Hart Lane this evening with somewhere approaching 30,000 Tottenham Hotspur fans. Martin Jol's Tottenham Hotspur play Khetafe in the UEFA Cup this evening, and we've talked about the players, talked about the manager. Understandably, Andy, the supporters, as always, will have a part to play in the play this evening.
Well, I get the impression from all the Tottenham fans, particularly those that I've spoken to outside tonight, is that they're very much behind Martin Jol. That they really do want him to turn it around and get it going again. Normally, managers who are a club like this, of this size, with the money they've spent in the bottom 3, normally they've got the fans baying for blood. That doesn't appear to be the case here right now. Now, I think the next 2 or 3 days is really going to be crucial, because I think if it was to be a poor display tonight and a defeat, if the Blackburn result was a struggle, then all of a sudden things could change very quickly.
It may be, Robbie, that actually that sense amongst the supporters is perhaps the one thing that is helping Martin Jol at the moment. Yeah. If we sense that the boardroom is not fully backing him, then maybe it's the supporters that are keeping him in the seat.
And the one thing that you do know is that the people in the boardroom will be affected by what happens on the terraces, and if it starts to turn, they'll quickly want to cut the ties. But I think as well that there's no outstanding candidate out there for Tottenham if they were to say that Martin Jol's time has come to an end. Marino would
particularly if you've got somebody lined up for next summer.
Exactly. So what they're going to do in that interim. So although Martin's still got time, and listen, he needs a couple of big results back to back to maybe just to turn the feeling around the place, and then who knows in football.
He needs the fans to do it for him, he needs the players to do it for him.
Yep.
He needs a win. Most important of all, he needs a win against Khetafe. An 8 o'clock kick-off. High time we heard from both of our members of the commentary team this evening as the teams ready themselves in the tunnel. We've spoken to David Pleat. It's a very good evening now to Peter Drury.
Matt, good evening and thank you. And once again, on a grim old night down the lane, Europe offers Tottenham an opportunity to move on. A chance for cheer in what has up to now been a pretty turgid soap opera of a Spurs season. Half-time, so a younger audience tonight perhaps, late nights permitted. And perhaps that youthful exuberance is just what Tottenham need. And the club never changes, its emblems never change, its ambitions never change, its frustrations never change. 21st century emblem, which began life 125 years ago. It's a grand old football club, this, whatever its modern day woes and wonders. And in the drizzle of North London, it has an aspiration tonight to re-find something of its smiling, stylish self. Few empty seats, which, if you're joining us late, is as a result, partially, of a problem on the A10, terrible traffic problems getting here. It's not a sellout anyway, but I'm sure it won't be that sparsely populated. by the time they all eventually get here. It's been a very frustrating journey here for a lot of people, and many of them are still outside the ground, and that is why we're kicking off a shade late. In that corner too, down at the other end, supporters of Khetafe, who've been in the tunnel for quite a while actually, the Spanish team in the south of Madrid. They've brought 300 supporters with them. They're not a big club at all. They're a tiny little outfit on the south side of Madrid. They come from an industrial blue-collar area, not a wealthy part of Spain at all. Their regular crowds are 11 or 12,000. And so fewer than 500 have made this trip for what is, despite that, an absolutely huge game in their history. It is the first time Khetafe have played in European competition this year. They qualified as cup finalists last year, and this is without a doubt the biggest game of its nature they've ever played. And they play it at Tottenham, for whom at some point this deep, dark plot must take a turn for the better. Maybe now. Got their equaliser. It has been a most engaging half, with many a talking point, not least Tottenham's lead given them by the head of Jermaine Defoe, which was snuffed out within a couple of minutes freakishly by Granero. Spurs might have had a lead again through Berbatov, but the linesman showed a flag. Right or wrong, you decide. Half-time, Spurs 1, Khetafe 1.
Well, Andy and Robbie will certainly offer their opinion on that disallowed goal. But how's your luck, Tottenham, at the moment? Andy Gardner looks like a serious ankle injury. Wish him a speedy recovery. Tottenham could be in front, but they're not. The pundits' thoughts when we come back.
Game on!
You've had the Rugby World Cup. You've had Lewis Hamilton, and now you've really hit the big time darts.
Honestly, I can't tell you how big this tournament is. I think the people will love this.
The best player on the planet, that's what we're playing for.
I want to win. I want to win this.
The top two go through, but it's seeded, so you want to win every game. Barnville, seeded 1, world champion, looks good. Phil Taylor will want to show the world, I'm back, and I'm still the man to beat.
This last 12 months has given me a right kick up the jacksie, so it's made me back dedicated again.
Gary Anderson, and then of course James Wade, who doesn't seem to be able to put a foot wrong at the moment. But don't forget Terry Jenkins, don't forget Michael van Gerwen, Jelle Klassen and John Park. They're the other top 4 seeds. You make your pick. You may need a pin for this one.
Grand Slam of Darts on ITV.
Don't miss an arrow.
Cannot bet a better bully in Wolverhampton next month. Look forward to that. Looking back at the first half here, fellas, frustrating sense of things for Tottenham before the match and at half-time here. And it started pretty well.
Yeah, I just think the fans turned up, and I thought they were looking to support the team, support the manager, but it just got a bit nervy towards the end. And as you say, they got a decent start. It took 18 minutes, but you know, eventually they got there, and it was the front two that Martin had chosen, and he'll be pleased that they worked. First ball comes in, Chimbonda clips a nice ball up, and what I particularly like is the movement here from Jermaine Defoe. While the defenders are all static and watching the ball, he reads the header better than anybody else. He reacts there.
Great play.
Little Predators finishing his say, not too many with the head, and they're off to a start, and you think, right, you know, big deep breath, now we can relax and push on a little bit.
Barely 2 minutes between that and the equaliser.
Well, right at the top of the show, we say we know Tottenham can score goals. Can they keep them out? Can they have they got a defensive unit that is mean and not going to buckle under any pressure? And the answer to that is no. I just want you to look right in the middle of the goals, because it's Dimitar Berbatov. Actually, oh, sorry, we're just looking at this angle here to start with. Is there a touch? Isn't there a touch? It's minimal. Not really 100% sure what's happening there. But from this angle, just want you to have a look now at Berbatov. Actually, look in the middle of the goals. You can see the big centre forward. There he is. Now, watch his arm. Stay here. Stay there. Don't go any deeper. Give the goalie a chance. Look, the goalie's even urging them out. Give me a chance to come and get it. Now, from this particular angle, we'll just freeze it just at this little point here. We'll put a little circle on Berbatov. Look, and here's that line. Imagine him there, and he's saying, I don't want anyone deeper than that. Do not drop in there. Now, at that point, we run it on nice and steady. watch at the point there. All of a sudden, we got two defenders literally dropping yards away, right on top of the goalie. Then he doesn't know whether to stick or twist the goalkeeper. So of course, then he's in big trouble, and it ends up cruising into the back of the net. And that is typical of what Tottenham do.
Well, in terms of communication and leadership,
no one taking charge.
Well, you've got a centre forward telling defenders to stay up and defenders dropping back. Something's not right there.
No. It could have been better. It could have been 2-1, and you've spent a long time having a look at the merits of the flag that denies Berbatov the goal.
We disagree on this one, Robbie and I. I think that when this ball is delivered, it's a great ball in, by the way. You can clearly see Berbatov circled. He is clearly onside, but Defoe is offside. Now, when Defoe tries to attack that, I think the linesman has every right to flag. And you look at the linesman, he's reacting, I think, to Defoe there. Berbatov is clearly onside. It's a great finish. I think the linesman has every right to pop his flag up there. Robbie disagrees.
I'm not convinced that Defoe was interfering with play. I think Berbatov's on an onside position. The ball ends up coming to him.
He's going for it, Rob, isn't he? He is trying to put something on it.
Who does he affect, the keeper or the defender? Not for me.
Well, but if he's like literally standing down the eye of the ball and he has a go at it, I don't think the.
What we do know is that grey area, this offside.
I thought they were a little bit unlucky. They might not.
You can argue it both ways.
Yeah.
Point is, it wasn't given, and it's 1-1 between Spurs and Khetafe. It is half-time here. Whether Albin and Berbatov got confused and thought it was full-time, I'm not sure, but they swapped shirts on the way off. Boys, there's still 45 minutes to go. 1-1 at half-time here at White Hart Lane between Tottenham and Khetafe. Now, reports reach us at half-time here from the Times and Sun newspapers on their websites that the club have already agreed severance terms with Martin Jol as of this evening, and that the Sevilla coach Juan de Ramos has agreed to take the reins here at Tottenham. Those are the reports reaching us at half-time here. There's the chairman of Tottenham, Daniel Levy. He will know what is or isn't true. There's certainly, Andy and Robbie, no sense of that here at the moment, and if there is any truth in it, it's an extraordinary development during a match.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, Matt, and you know, it's two strong papers if they're going with a headline, but so you don't get a sense of it here, and how that situation could happen before a big game like that, I just find.
I would be staggered if Martin Jol agreed to take charge of the team just for old time's sake. I mean, that's absolutely bizarre. It's incredible. Never had anything like it.
We have clearly endeavoured to try and elicit a response, a clarification from the club while a match is going on. Obviously, the club, as you could understand, are not offering any comment on that kind of conjecture, and it is in the manner of reports at this stage. It is not news, it is not official in any sense. The shake of the head from Daniel Levy, perhaps indicative. Maybe people are starting to ask him the same question, but we will endeavour to find out what is or isn't the case. In the meantime, there's a match to finish. Spurs against Khetafe, the players certainly are involved. 1-1. Let's rejoin David Pleat and Peter Drury.
Farewell, Martin Jol. They came to praise you, and you were buried. His reign as manager under Daniel Levy at Tottenham Hotspur ends after very nearly 3 years in charge, 3 broadly successful years. It ends in defeat in the UEFA Cup, a competition which served him so well. But he disappears out of sight now under the gaze of a chairman. And David Pleat, it seems appropriate on this occasion to get a final word from you.
Sad night for Tottenham. Loyal supporters cheering the team to the end. If, as we've been saying, Martin Jol does leave tonight, he leaves a good group of young players who need some confidence and some heart, and I'm quite sure they'll move up the league. As I say, disappointing night, but let's not take any credit away from Khetafe, who came here with some ambition, weren't overawed, and gave us an exciting 90 minutes.
Only Tottenham's second ever home defeat in Europe. More significantly, the end of an era that ends with a 1-2 defeat.
Well, it's not if, it's when, and when is now for Martin Jol. His tenure as Tottenham boss is over. We talked about fact and fiction earlier in the programme. Andy and Robbie have been watching this game with me. It is a fact, but you'd struggle to make this up. It is bizarre.
And don't forget, in amongst all of this, what's been going on tonight, there's been a UEFA Cup match to win. I mean, did the players know about it before kick-off? Did they get wind of it at all? Can that be right before such an important game? Incredible, incredible. You know, I just hope with what Martin Jol has gone through over the last 2 or 3 months, I just hope that he does leave with a wheelbarrow full of cash. A lot of managers, when they get the sack, they walk out with a load of money some don't deserve. I think with what he's done here over the last couple of years and the way he's been treated at this season, I think he does deserve it.
Robbie?
I just think from the moment that they were caught out in Spain talking to Ramos, that it was inevitable. It was a question of time, and the time's come tonight. It was too much for him to take in the end. The pressure, I think, and all the interference from the media. You know, the thing with Berbatov probably on Monday night at Newcastle was probably the last straw from both sides.
It may well be Mr. Ramos who replaces Martin Jol. There's obviously much to discuss, and we will, of course, endeavour as much as possible to talk to Martin to confirm and get his thoughts on exactly what has gone on. But it would certainly be sure to say now is parting company with Tottenham, who have lost here to Khetafe. More reaction from up here and downstairs next. Well, the newspaper gossip for week after week after week became website headlines this evening during the game against Khetafe. Rumours sweeping around White Hart Lane throughout tonight's match, and finally the confirmation everybody expected, if not during a match here, that Martin Jol is no longer Tottenham manager. They've lost tonight, and they have lost, it seems, their manager. Let's just get the latest from downstairs. Gabriel Clark, of course, our reporter here this evening. Gabriel, at the full-time whistle, as players and management and staff all filed past you, any way to glean what was going on? Who knew what at that point?
Well, at the moment, Matt, you get the suggestion that the players or the management involved didn't have any idea, have no idea exactly what is going on with Tottenham down here. They all filed past, as you say. We tried to get a chat with Robbie Keane, which almost happened, and as far as Tottenham are concerned, no official confirmation coming from the boardroom from Daniel Levy. We're working on that. We're hoping we will get some sort of confirmation of that. I spoke to Clive Allen as well, the assistant coach at half-time, and he looked genuinely shocked when I put it to him that Martin Jol had tendered his resignation, that was the news we were getting, and he looked genuinely shocked, Clive. Which would suggest that the players before this game had no idea that was the case. Of course, as the atmosphere built, as the fans started to chant the name of Martin Jol, you got the impression that something was going on, and that might have worked its way through to the players. But all rather bizarre downhill here. Most of all, we'll hope now to try and get a word with the manager maybe who has just left the club.
Indeed, and just to sort out what was happening in that second half again, as rumour became eventually confirmation, you, I think, endeavoured to make your way to the director's box to try to talk to Daniel Levy to seek confirmation, and the club weren't that willing to cooperate. Is that fair to say?
Well, I don't know about not willing to cooperate. I think at the moment they're probably, certain people who work with us down here in the tunnel just looked a little bit bemused, as you'd expect. And maybe if this did happen just several hours, an hour or so before the kick-off, maybe when the chairman and the manager met, and maybe when it was agreed, maybe they felt, well, let's not tell anyone. We want to try and get a good result tonight. Let's not let the news spread around. OK, Martin Jol takes over for this one final game, and it's best maybe that the players don't know, so that Tottenham can try and get a result, whoever might be the manager in the future. So there's just a sense of the bizarre here, and we just want to try and get confirmation. And I think the people working on Tottenham's behalf want to try and give us confirmation that Martin Jol is no longer the manager.
OK, thank you very much for the moment to Gabriel. We'll let you go and try and get those reactions and chats with those that know what they know. That tells its own story, Robbie and Andy. A shake of the head, a slightly surreal feeling around.
What I don't accept on what's gone on tonight is that the players didn't know about it at some point. All those guys, you think about all the guys that were on the bench. You know, they got mobile phones. They'll have been sitting there. Their families at home would have watching. They'll have been listening. They'll have been texting them. They'll have been ringing them. So I think players do know, and I think that's poor from the club's point of view in such a big game. This is a huge occasion here. And quite rightly, these fans are entitled to be absolutely stunned by it.
In a way, given what's happened in the last 2 or 3 months, it's quite a fitting end to a fairly shoddy period. I think a pretty big and dignified club's history.
It tells you more about Martin Jol as a man. If he has tried to keep it away for the players, but the way that he's done it, I just think that he's a manager who, has his dignity intact. He's been, you know, fifth positions in the league of the last 2 seasons. What he's done here, I think he can hold his head up high and walk out, I say, with some dignity intact.
Yeah, there's inevitably lots of speculation about whether it will be Juan de Ramos. Will he arrive in time for the weekend? Possibly for next week's Carling Cup game. Is Martin Jol on his way to Ajax? The rumour mill inevitably in football continues to pace, but what we do know for a fact is that the timing of this...
Well, it's been dragging up. This club are capable of anything. I mean, he could walk out on this pitch now and give us all a wave. I mean, it's that bizarre what has been going on here over the last few weeks. It's just incredible. And as Robbie says, look, Martin Jol's had a poor season. Let's be fair. With the money they've spent, it's not gone well. However,
mind you, it's not a season yet, is it? It's the first third of a season.
However, the way it's been handled over the last few weeks has been very, very average indeed.
Thank you both for the moment. We will hear from the Tottenham supporters before we're done. They will have a view, of course, on the departure of their manager, and we'll hope to speak to the man himself. We're back shortly. Tottenham have lost to Khetafe here this evening and lost their manager. Martin Jol has left the dressing room and we gather gone to the boardroom here at White Hart Lane. Things to discuss, quite possibly, with his chairman and his board. We will, of course, chase after him and try to talk to him. In the meantime, the goal that has lost them the game clearly hasn't lost him his job, but it's indicative of the kind of play that's probably contributed.
It's been a cameo of what's happened this season, not least the poor defending, individual mistakes that have cost Tottenham, and in the end, you know, inevitably cost the manager his job. And again, we picked the action up. Khetafe are in the game and having more possession than they should have. They work the ball wide, and take a look at Cabal, seems centre of the picture. He looks for the attacker and then takes a terrible position by standing. That's the attacker running behind him. Dawson can't really react. Maybe you'd like to see him get round a little bit better. It's a clever flick, but it's shocking defending, Matt.
It is. You'd have to be honest. The one thing about Tottenham is that they have looked all over the place at the back. During this season, it is. I mean, that's the reaction. Do you know what? I admire Martin for the way that he has played a great game. I mean, you make of this what you wish. This is seconds after that goal. We saw a smile from Abramovich the other week in the Rosenborg game when Mourinho was there, and that to me is I don't like that. I think that's poor.
We don't know what he's smiling at, but the timing is unfortunate, to say the least.
Of course it is. I mean, he's not whispering that we're having a game of golf tomorrow, is it?
Well,
you know, let's be honest. I think it's poor. It's poor, that is, Matt. I don't like that at all. But but Tottenham have had problems at the back for a while. And in all fairness, that's the manager's job. Martin has not arrested that problem. He has not sorted that problem out.
But as a club, you don't help a defence, a team, a manager, whether he's leaving or not, by making this kind of arrangement going into UEFA Cup.
Any club that's successful is unified, from the board to the manager to the players to the fans. In this club, since the Ramos situation has been split and these little camps and players not playing and all these little things have added to what we saw tonight and culminated in the manager resigning.
Of course, the supporters who were, in a way, the most important thing, and in some ways the last that are thought about, will support Tottenham Hotspur, not necessarily players, managers, chairman. They support their club. What do they make of what on earth is going on with Spurs?
Yeah, that'd be a fantastic acquisition. Gus Poyet in the helm, and Ramos, yeah, definitely. New ideas, fresh breath of fresh air. He's got to come in.
I watched him a couple of times last year, and they were attacking fast. Looked up for it. Now they look terrible. I don't know what it's caused. I don't know.
Let's get somebody who's English who knows. Someone like Mark Hughes, you know, Harry Redknapp. Somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm a bit upset that Martin Jol's gone. Not the way he's gone. To undermine him, go behind his back is not the way to do it.
No, we want Martin. We're happy with Martin. We don't want him to go.
Sergio Ramos is in the building and he's here.
Marina. You don't need to say anything else there.
Cross-section of views, as you always get from supporters. Mark Hughes mentioned an English manager. We want Martin. Martin's the one for us. We played better last season. Well, that certainly, I think, is indisputable.
Yeah, well, I think one of the questions would be, a new manager coming in, does that mean more money? Does that mean breaking this team up and bringing players back? Or is it a case of having to work with what you've got and training ground manager? You know, those are the dilemmas. But, I mean, Ramos has been circling for so long. You just feel that, and we're hearing Gus Poyet, it maybe is his assistant.
That's certainly been mentioned by some of the newspapers' websites, the indications that if it is Juan de Ramos who comes from Sevilla, he may well, because he doesn't speak a great deal of English and clearly has limited knowledge of English football, may well look to Gus Poyet, who's currently working with Dennis Wise at Leeds.
I think if you're gonna change a manager, then I do think you need to whip it all up and rip it up and get going. Yeah. If you believe that, if they're believing that they're making the right decision, then there's no point in keeping half the staff on, Matt or whatever. I think the new guy's entitled to bring in who he wants.
Let's bring David Pleat back in, who's patiently waiting to talk to us on the gantry here at Tottenham, having commentated on that. David, it's a mess, certainly, and it needs a bit of sorting out, and quickly. Will they throw money at it?
Well, they've thrown a lot of money, £40 million at it. They have one of the biggest professional staffs in the Premiership. I have to say that the situation, what disappoints me about tonight's situation is the leak. They may have agreed something before the game, but they may have agreed not to announce it till after the game. But someone, and it's not untypical of Tottenham Hotspur, has leaked this to the press, which has even further undermined Martin. I saw his body language tonight, Martin. Never got into the technical area, was not gesturing, was not cajoling his players particularly. I think he lost heart a little after the terrible situation that was exposed in the press after the directors went to Seville.
Sure.
And I think that was a real tragic day for Tottenham.
David, the thing is, there's a UEFA Cup tie here to be won tonight. I mean, the timing of this, from a playing perspective, purely from the players' perspective, is shocking. It's diabolical.
You're not wondering, David, would it not have been better not to have been here tonight, to have resigned and not gone through with it, let somebody else take the team on, because he obviously wasn't himself, as you say, down there in the technical area?
A difficult one. He probably wanted to go out in glory, and we would love to have seen a 4 or a 5 goal thrashing of Khetafe tonight. It didn't happen. The players, I thought, in the end, were all at sea. Too many players running with the ball, very frenetic, not calm. It's been a very difficult time for Tottenham over the last few weeks. We'll hear all sides of the story as time goes on. We always do. I just think it's a very big disappointment for it's a unique club. It's got great tradition. Can't grasp one of those top 4 places, and to move it on to one of those top 4 places is going to take a fresh face, a fresh voice. But of course the board are going to have to spend a lot more money, I think, because that is usually the way in football. And I feel for Martin Jol, because everyone would love to manage Tottenham Hotspur. He's done well here for 2 consecutive years. He's added to his reputation. He will get a job, certainly back in Holland, and possibly even here if he wants to manage here. He's been a very big earner here in a very short space of time since coming from Holland. But his experience here will have whetted his appetite for big things, and we all wish Martin well.
Indeed, absolutely echo that sentiment. And actually, given that you know plenty of the members of that Tottenham board, David, from working all those years here, it may well be it's better for Martin to not continue with working with some of those members of the board if that's the way they want to treat him.
Well, I think that if there is a love affair ever between directors and managers, and there never really is, because sooner or later you're going to be asked to leave, and that's the way football is. In 8 cases out of 10, managers are sacked. Occasionally they resign and they move elsewhere, but most managers, don't get employment straight away. It's very difficult for them when they go. Martin's had the opportunity here to manage a very big club. He's done it well. And I think people will see that there hasn't been a united front, certainly over the last few weeks. If you've only won 1 Premiership game out of, I think, 9 or 10 attempts, then there is something amiss.
David, do you expect this guy to be in charge at the weekend against Blackburn, or caretaker manager? They're talking about various people that are already here. What's going to happen now?
I'm absolutely no wiser than anyone else. I've sat here with Peter tonight. I did assure Peter at half-time when he first got a whiff of this news that I wouldn't come back as caretaker, whatever happened. He wanted to go down.
You'd have took it. Come on, be honest.
I'm enjoying things. I like talking. I like talking to you, Andy.
Yeah, by the way, that red glow is the phone in his pocket, ringing off his hinges. Never say never in football. Never say never. Stranger things have happened at Tottenham, mostly in recent times. Thank you very much to David Pleat. very interesting, as always, to hear from him. He promises not to take the job. Someone's got to take the job.
Yeah.
And we assume it probably will now be Juan de Ramos, and needs to be quick, and they've pretty much written off this season, haven't they?
Well, they I mean, is he here for the weekend? I mean, will the guy be coming here at the weekend?
Blackpool, wait for the Blackpool game, the big one.
You know, it's amazing, it's amazing. But at least from the players' point of view, because that's what I always tend to think of, at least from their point of view, it's all finished. As of today now, it is finally over and done with, and we can start to think about, let's get ourselves up this table, let's get someone else involved and get us sorted out, get us revved up, and put all this behind us, and finally get going onwards and upwards.
Just wonder if there'll be one or two who put their head on the pillow tonight and sleep that well. One or two of the players who might just look back over the course of this last few months and say, did they give all for the manager?
Yeah. Well, only they will know, I suppose. And Martin Jol, who will probably take some of that information with him into his next job. Just before we're done, thank you very much, fellas. Very good to talk to you. We've endeavoured certainly to talk to Martin Jol. There's been really no reaction, no press conference, nothing from Tottenham. The scores elsewhere tonight: 2-0 in Tottenham's group. Anderlecht have beaten Hapoel Tel Aviv. That puts them top of Spurs' group, who have 3 more group games. Bolton 1, Braga 1. Archie Knox as caretaker before Gary Megson is confirmed tomorrow. Everton, good win against Larissa, who knocked out Blackburn 3-1 at Goodison Park tonight. And 3-0 Panathinaikos have beaten Aberdeen in Greece this evening. We've tried, we've stayed on extra time to talk to Martin Jol. He has not spoken to anybody publicly, but he has finished at White Hart Lane. His tenure as Tottenham boss is done. As we are. Night from us.